Ah, shit. What the hell is that thing?
I didn't expect a flying demon at this altitude. Alicia, it will be difficult to attack from inside here.
Then I'll just have to go out and meet it.
I'm going to preface this review by telling you that Bullet Witch is a game that I wanted to love. It had elements in place that I normally pine for in a game. For instance, it was developed by Cavia. They're responsible for Nier, one of my favorite games of all time, and the Drakengard series. It stars a sexy witch who has a machine gun shaped like a broom. And it has that low-budget Japanese aesthetic that resembles the Simple series games that's so hard to come by in the modern era, where unique games are often overshadowed by AAA giants. These qualities alone are enough for me to overlook a lot of flaws and enjoy a game for trying out new ideas, despite a few glitches here and there. Typically, I don't invest too much time into games that I don't enjoy. Sadly, Bullet Witch doesn't even have charm in a ironic, it's so bad, it's good sense. However, this game only sits shy of 6 hours for a single playthrough, so I decided to stick it out. The year is 2013. And the world's been invaded by a demon army from hell. The demons have been using biological warfare to spread disease and turn humans into soldiers for their undead army. According to the lore, less than 1 billion humans exist now.
Before you kill me.
Prayers, you should have done that before. Just a raven. Too bad.
Enter our protagonist Alicia, a gun-toting witch with a tsundere attitude, shows up to save the world, or what's left of it.
The number of geists has increased since we got here. It's proof the main body is corrupt.
That putrid stench of hell. The demon here, it's even stronger than I feared. It seems this city is also doomed.
Alicia is joined by a magical voice in her head called the Darkness, and sadly, Mike Patton doesn't do the vocals on this one.
I will taste your heart!
She arrives in the outskirts of the city to see citizens being ravaged by zombie soldiers. The story isn't groundbreaking by any sense of the imagination, and it's only carried by the best character in the game, the Chris Redfield-looking Max Cougar.
I'm in charge of these troops. I'm Maxwell Cougar. We don't see many soldiers dressed like you up here. Anyway, look, I know you're the one with the demonic. It's nice to meet you. Not very friendly, are you?
I can't get enough of this fucking dude. He just shows up with his Dreamcast hairdo and happy-go-lucky nature in the middle of chaos. Doesn't matter that the world is being overrun with demons and most everyone he's ever cared about is already dead. Max can't help but see the silver lining in everything.
And another thing, I want you to always remember that you've got a friend right here in me.
Anyway, let's talk gameplay. Bullet Witch is a third-person action shooter. You have a broom called the Gun Rod that can morph into a machine gun, sniper rifle, shotgun, or Gatling gun. Like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry, Alicia can flip around to dodge in air, and she has unlimited ammo, but she will dip into her magic bar in order to reload. From what I've been told, most of the gameplay mechanics were ripped directly from Cavia's PS2 game, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, only they're a little less refined. In between chapters, you can spend kill points you've earned from slaying demons to upgrade your weapons and magic, but you'll likely won't notice much of a difference between power and upgrades. In true Xbox 360 third-person shooter standard fare, there's a regenerating health bar. The regenerating health bar is capped at a certain point until you shoot more enemies. If you get hit too much, you can only regen a smaller percentage of the health bar. Shooting enemies nets you more health and recharges your magic as well. Speaking of magic, Alicia also has a range of spells in her book. Ancient Wall spawns a wall in front of Alicia to protect her from oncoming fire. The downside is she cannot return fire from behind it. Willpower is one of the more temperamental and ultimately useless spells in the game, which pushes some objects forward in front of Alicia to destroy enemies. It's really unclear which objects can be moved and which objects cannot. The Rose Spear, which fires a drop of blood in order to create a line of thorns to impale enemies on and burn them alive. I really like this spell, but the hit detection is all over the place. Element Shot, which imbues your weapons with an element such as fire in order to shoot enemies for more damage, and to be honest, I've never noticed a difference in power. Sacrifice, in which Alicia slits her wrist and pours blood into an NPC's asshole to revive them. Raven's Panic, which I found to be the most useful of the regular spells, sends a horde of ravens to peck nearby enemies to death. Really, the only thing Raven's Panic is good for is highlighting where the enemies are on the field, because they are extremely difficult to see. Alicia also has some super spells. These require the use of all or most of the magic bar, but they also cause the most damage. Lightning casts a giant bolt of lightning in order to destroy tanks, barricades, and other large enemies. It really sucks to use, because not only does it come with a non-skippable animation, then after waiting through the animation, you have to then aim it and fire and pray you're close enough to your target and pray that you don't get hit, otherwise you've got to recast the spell and wait through the animation again. It's frustrating how often it is required to use lightning in this game. Tornado, which is one of the highlights of this game, summons a large tornado to toss around objects, kill enemies, destroy buildings, and knock out helicopters. It's a really great spell and fun to play with, but it's really hard to aim and you're not quite sure where the trajectory of the tornado is going to reach. And my personal favorite, a spell that you don't acquire until the last level of the game, Meteor. No, we're not talking Tello from Final Fantasy IV, your grandpa's Meteor there. We're talking about Bullet Witch's Meteor. The Meteor spell in this game almost makes Bullet Witch redeemable, just for the fun factor alone. So Alicia summons like 12 meteors at once, and they plummet randomly across the battlefield. They fuck up everything in their path. Buildings, monsters, cars. Alicia. Fire and brimstone litter the field, and you've got to be careful not to get hit by the debris. I almost thought I was playing Earth Defense Force for a second. Seriously, why did they wait till in-game to give you the funnest game mechanic? I bet the team hated how bland the end of the game was and decided, just let the player destroy the whole goddamn planet they were just trying to save. Who gives a shit? Meteors are fun! The loading times aren't that bad in this game. Installing the game to your Xbox's hard drive reduces the time by 5 seconds on average. The loading times aren't great because the game was well optimized. No, not by any stretch of the imagination. The loading times are fast because the world of Bullet Witch is so empty. This is my main gripe with Bullet Witch's world. There's too much wide open space and not enough to see or do in the world beyond pointing the gun rod at enemies and shooting. There's never any clear direction given to where you need to go in this open world. No map, no compass, you just roam around until you suddenly find a walnut head, which is a floating brain that you need to kill in order to bypass a magic-colored wall. Think the original Doom, where you had to find corresponding keycards for doors. Yeah, it really slows down the pace of the game, seeking out these brains. There isn't a lot of variety in the enemy design, and for a game with only 6 levels, you've pretty much seen everything by level 2. Enemies litter the field, but good luck being able to see them from a distance until they're already shooting at you. Sometimes, when NPCs are on the field, it's hard to discern them from the zombie soldiers. I spent most of the game just blind firing into a crowd at fuzzy objects in the background until they fell over. The AI in this game isn't properly balanced. The enemies are bullet sponges, and never do you feel like your guns are doing any damage, even at full upgrade. All the enemies rush you and spam bullets. That's it. Rarely do they dodge or run for cover. Their line of sight is extremely far, and if you're dealing with snipers, Their aim is perfect, and it's one shot and you're dead. The snipers have to be the worst enemy in the game. They have Chris Kyle accuracy, and there isn't a good way to dodge them outside of getting behind a tree. The best approach is to kill them before they see you. My favorite fights in the game involve these giant machine gun armed demons. I think they have a proper name, but I just call them grimaces. These guys have a weak point in their chest, and once you hit them enough, they'll fall over and crash into things. They're really not that intimidating because of their terrible AI, but they're fun to mess around with. One of the most frustrating levels in any game I've ever played has to be the boss fight on top of a cargo plane in Bullet Witch. So Alicia is fighting what resembles a giant dragon with 100 eyeballs on its body. The objective is to strike the dragon 5 times with her lightning attack, which, reminder, requires a full bar of magic. Defend the plane from these homing eyeballs that want to drill into the plane, avoid homing eyeballs that want to knock Alicia off the plane, and most importantly, don't fall off the plane. There are no invisible walls keeping Alicia from falling off the plane. If you flip once, chances are you will get sucked into the clouds. The plane also constantly rocks back and forth, so staying balanced is extremely difficult. Consider this, you're also shooting the eyeballs drilling into the plane, random eyeballs will crash into you like homing missiles, and you gotta pray that the dragon doesn't swoop in and swallow you whole. Yes, that will happen if you wait too long to use lightning. It's honestly one of the most challenging fights I've had in a game in recent memory, but not because it was well designed. Anyways, this game outshines Dark Souls in the cheap death category by a long shot. Cue the cheap death montage reel. I have my own personal theory as to why this game is such a mess. You see, Bullet Witch was an Xbox 360 exclusive title, and only few Japanese developed games were developed for the American machine, especially in 2006. This game was rushed out near the launch of the 360 to get Japanese gamers to buy the system. From my understanding, most Japanese gamers bought an Xbox 360 to play the console exclusive Tales of Vesperia, a phenomenal action RPG. Well, it it was exclusive until Japanese gamers begged Namco to release it on the PS3, which they did, a more improved version of Vesperia, one that us Western fans weren't privileged enough to receive, fan translation notwithstanding. With a little more time in the oven, I believe this game could have been an excellent title, but it seemed as if Cavia sent it out to die and abandoned the title after hearing the failure of the Xbox 360 in the East. My only evidence of this is that Cavia never created a single patch for this game. I'm not gonna dog on Cavia, they are an extremely competent team. Reading an interview with the team, they had hoped the character Alicia would have been more popular in the West because third-person shooters weren't well received in Japan. It really seems as if the developers put a lot of heart into this game, and they also acknowledged it had quite a bit of flaws. From the interview with Play Magazine, they had intended to put all the improvements in a possible sequel for Bullet Witch. I guess they had hoped it would have become a franchise. Oh hey look, they slam Uwe Boll at the end of this interview for his bad video game movies.
You have no fucking talent at all. All the dialogue is retarded. You lead your actors like fucking stupid idiots, and the stuff what looks good is not even made by you. Big CGI teams, whatever, you just hire the most expensive people. I would make that movies 10 times better as you. That is what I want to say.
For some supplemental material, if you're still interested in picking up this game, I mean, it's only like $5. There's a comic book titled Bullet Witch Zero that covers a little bit of Alicia's past. I'm going to include the link in the description. It was a pre-order exclusive, so there weren't that many copies made. I'm really saddened that we never got to see a sequel to Bullet Witch with all the improved features promised by Cavia. If you're out there looking for a great third-person action shooter starring a witch, then go ahead and go with Bayonetta, because Bullet Witch really isn't gonna scratch that itch. Thanks for checking out my review. If you had a good time watching my video and you learned something today, go ahead and throw me a like, leave me a comment, I'm gonna get back at you, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that already. Tell me how Bullet Witch was your favorite game and I got it completely wrong. I'll see you next time.